Every single house in Reval used to have a pair of Ethic stones in front of it, but these two are the only remaining originals. And this has to do with the Soviet occupation. Those swine actually used to use these stones as street filling, if you can imagine, just to break them down, to break the local morale and show how little they have regard for heritage. But one gentleman saw this insanity happening, basically stole the stones, hid him in his own basement, and in the 90s they were found. And as soon as historians looked at it, they knew exactly where to bring it home. And that's what makes it ingenious. It tells you a story. And let's put this story together. So who could this guy be? Same Maurice. He's the original blackhead. So he lives there in the 1st century and he joins up the Romans. He becomes a legionnaire. And by the lions you can see he's Christianizing which continent? Have you ever seen a lion in England? Africa. But yeah, he's Christianizing Africans. So for a medieval peasant, this tells him far more than any sign outside the house ever would, because if you're a peasant in medieval times, you're most probably illiterate, so you can't read anyway. But you have been to the church, and make no mistake, in the 1500s, everybody goes to church. If you skip enough, they set you on fire, so you're really motivated to show up. And all the patron saints that are relevant near you are obviously addressed first, so every peasant living around Reval knows perfectly well who Saint Maurice is. And at that point, the Ethic stone becomes far more informative than anything else ever would. But when you became slightly more sophisticated, then into this bind rune symbol, they would put on their coat of arms and they would brand on everything they produce. They would also pour the information of who these people are, in what towns are they active, what class of society they belong to, what values do they represent, and what can you buy from them. So pretty much a medieval person looks at this and goes, Hugo Boss. But it works exactly the same way, yeah? And what is interesting is that this kind of bind rune symbols, these were used across the Hanseatic League in almost 200 cities. It's like the first universal sign language of Europe. And any merchant worth knowing would know how to read and write in these marks. Now, if the time comes for marriage, and for most of those fine folks, marriage did arrive at one point, they were immediately kicked out from the brotherhood. Married people were not allowed across this doorframe. Married people were considered to be the responsible people now, and they had to go to the Great Guild. And so shall we. So we will go take a